Hello, ladies, gentlemen, viewers, to the DRG Epic Gameplays episode 100 Jetty Boot analysis. What a name, what a title to just spew out words. But no, this
Yeah.
this
So
is
today,
go for it.
uh, do you, okay, I'll explain the concept. So today, what we're doing, we're taking a look. We have collected some interesting statistics for you all regarding what happened during episode 100. We're going to be analyzing our Jetty Boot gameplay and seeing if there's any interesting patterns. Um, so yeah, I mean, hopefully this will be informative and we'll all walk away as better Jetty Boot players.
Yes. You know, they say a lot of the skill or learning is done off the court, and in analysis of your strategies
Precisely.
and methods. So that's what we're doing. We're doing our off the court analysis.
All
So
right.
to start us off, we have some individual statistics. We'll go in the order they are in the video. So from left to right, me, Falcon, Germ, and then, of course, for our fine guest, Vanyas. So
All right.
to start us off, we've got
Moving to slide
some
two.
yep, we've got some interesting numbers here. This here is the score over the entirety of the episode. Each spike is representative of a game, and these numbers were taken in 10-second intervals. So, they may not be the highest score, like, the scores may not be entirely accurate to what the highest was, but I'm neither here nor there. Uh, some interesting stuff to note is that a lot of the times after you see a large spike, especially where I set the record in the middle, you'll see an immediate drop off in the score, immediate and very apparent, before it starts to, slowly ramp back up to another pretty good game, which I find quite funny, and we'll see that as a recurring trend throughout the statistics. But
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I think it's definitely an element of, there's no longer that pressure as much after you've gotten a new high score, so it takes some time to kind of get back into it after the exhilaration of a new high score. I will note though, as far as this peak in the middle where you set the I believe it was a 90, was it 91? What
it
was the high
was
score?
93, if I remember correctly.
Okay, 93. Yeah, where you set the 93, I will note this peak in particular, there is actually a drop off before the peak as well. Like the score you got immediately after the peak is actually not as low as the score you got immediately beforehand.
Hmm,
Um,
that is true.
so you can see the trend here at the beginning. It kind of you have a few good scores at the start, and then you kind of have a few good scores here towards the middle, and then it actually kind of drops off before you get the 93. I would say that definitely you can see that trend of the ramp towards the end here with that second high score here at the about the 50-minute mark is when the run starts. You can see that generally there's that ramping up towards the high score and then it drops off and then it ramps up again. But I think the peak in the middle is actually kind of unique in the fact that it's downward sloping towards it on both sides.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
definitely a strange sort of thing. Like, almost feels like an outlier. But
it
I'm
does,
I'm
yeah.
certainly not going to
Interesting.
complain about my outlier there.
Yeah, no,
It
certainly a good
kept me
outlier.
the record for around 20 minutes.
Indeed it did. And this gray line, this is what is this exactly? Could you explain the gray line
So
here at the
the gray
bottom?
line is the trend in score. So basically, the average of every single metric that is in this table, in terms of my score, that is the average. So you can see that it's going up. So my average score is indeed raising throughout this, but
Hmm.
it is a very very slow trend. You can see I go from about 22 ish to around 27 over the course of what would be an hour. So I'm only going up
Right.
around 5 points an hour, which is a little unfortunate, but we will see another table in the near future that will go further into this in what I believe to be more accurate data.
Now, I will say, because of the way this is calculated, this average trend. It's taking the score from every 10 seconds, so it's not just counting the high scores,
It's
correct? It's
also
also
counting the
counting.
low scores. Yes.
It's counting like as you're building up. So even
Yep.
if you have a really good run, it's averaging between when you're at the peak of that run and when you just started the run. So
Yes. So it
obviously
is.
the
It's not.
average final
It's
score is not in the 20s. You can see some of your lowest scores are not even at where the trend line is, but that's just because of the way it's calculated.
yep. No.
Uh,
So certainly, not an entirely accurate number, but an interesting one nonetheless.
Indeed, indeed, for sure. I think it's cool to see that that goes up over time as our skill at Jetty Boot increased.
Yes, I'd hope so. Spending an hour jetty booting.
Yeah, yeah. Are we prepared to move on to the next slide?
Yes, I think so. On to Germ. Now, one thing I find funny is since the number of spikes is representative of the number of games, you can see that Germ had a lot more games played. And obviously, that can be attributed to his games were shorter, but it was said in the video that, oh, you know, Vanyas, you might go broke during this video if you do it long enough. But that couldn't be further from the truth because you had the longest games. So you were
So
spending
I
the
spent the less
least. Yeah.
the least money.
So
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Jerem
That's
ended
very
up
true.
spending the most. He was the most at detriment in this video.
Now, do we have an exact number of how many? I mean, I guess I suppose we could count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61 times what, 5 credits per play?
Yeah,
61 times 5, what would that be? That would be
that'd
like
be 305.
305. So 305 credits? That's
Yeah.
honestly not even that bad, all things
No,
considered.
no. I mean,
That's not a
you
large
can get
amount.
that much in like 2 gold veins, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, that's very affordable. So the potential fear of us running out of money, me having like 1,400 bucks in my account at the time, um, was not founded apparently because it actually does not cost that much to play Jetty Boot for an hour, even if
No.
you're playing a pretty large amount of games.
If you were to have an addiction, Jetty Boot would be one of the less costly ones. So
It's true.
I
You're gonna spend
suppose
way more money at the bar than you would playing Jetty Boot. So
absolutely, absolutely. Another interesting thing to note is, well, I suppose not terribly interesting considering you've seen it before, but just there at the start around the 7 minute mark, we can see Germ's high score immediately into a drop in score, which
mhm.
is again the recurring theme here.
Well, actually,
Quite
this is like
entertaining
your
how,
high score here. You
yeah,
can see it actually slopes down at the start as well. It's the same kind of situation here
yep,
as the one that I pointed out earlier, which is interesting. I also find it interesting how I think for your and my scores, generally we did not get a high score until like halfway through or more towards the end, I believe. I think I got a pretty high score. I got a high score right away, didn't I, as
I
well?
beat my personal best on my first or second game.
Okay, so that seems to be a trend with all of us is that we beat our personal best very early on, and then there's usually a long gap trying to kind of work back up to that. But I
Yeah,
think it's especially pronounced here with Germ's score. You can see gets this really impressive outlier score here, almost to 50, right at the start within the first 10 minutes, and then it is just a big valley here of not really coming even close to that score, aside from this one here at about maybe 12, 13 minutes. And then at the end, suddenly you get this big 50 spike where he heroically hit that 50 score on Jetty Boot that we
yes.
had arbitrarily decided we needed to do
It's
halfway
very
through.
important, very important.
So big shout out to Jerm for that one. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's an interesting kind of trend here. How you have these two peaks on the very extremes, and then the valley in the middle.
Yes.
Uh,
And then it is
Definitely
quite
different.
interesting to see right at the end there, he does incredibly well. He has some of his best games right at the end after he's hit that 50.
Yeah,
Perhaps the
yeah.
confidence boost and the praise is what drove Germ for those high scores, but you know that can only be assumed.
It's hard to say. I'm looking at the graph here to see and deduce if there was perhaps some pressure added by the addition of the germ needs to get to 50 rule, but I don't see a noticeable dip in this graph at any point that would seem to
No,
imply any kind of stress impacting his performance. So yeah,
perhaps
no, I
even he
mean
was too
this
tired to register the stress.
I think that's very true. I think Germ was perhaps not in peak gaming condition at the time of this, which makes that 50 score at the end there all the more impressive
Oh
and
yes,
absolutely.
absolutely. Now, I will note that he has a very, very impressive consistency throughout both of throughout the valley in the center between his two high scores. It is almost always right between 20 to 30, if not
Hmm.
always between 25 to 30, which is, I mean, to have consistency like that is still impressive. It might be a low number, but he knows what he's doing for those first bits. He just needs to get past the hurdle of the third or fourth level.
Yeah, yeah. I think when the gaps start getting smaller, you can see that's really kind of causing issues.
Yeah.
Um, in his gameplay here. Now, interestingly, I think with Germs, the trend line, you can see it's actually if you just look at the graph, it's kind of obvious where you can see that trend upward. Like, yes, it's subtle, but because he's so consistent with these scores, you can actually see that consistency is going up pretty
Yeah.
obviously. In the start, like you said, the 20 to 30 range, he's very consistently hitting that bottom 20 to 25 range. And then in the second half, very consistently hitting that 25 to 30 range instead. Um,
Yeah.
so you can see like a real noticeable improvement here in just that average.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can see his trend line starts at around what I would say 11, 12-ish and ends around 15. So, once again, this isn't an incredibly accurate metric just because of the nature of the data that was recorded here, but still an
Mhm.
interesting tidbit nonetheless.
Now, I'm trying to think about like percentage wise how much the trend would have increased. So I'm looking at your graph again. You started around low 20s and you end up where? Like 20, 20.
It was around 27, probably 27, 26.
Yeah, so that's an increase of what, like 5 or 6 points
Yep.
over the course of the match. And then with Germ, it's an increase of about 4 points, but those 4 points I think are potentially more significant um, given the smaller metric we're working with. I'm not sure how the math works out exactly on that, but
I
as
think it
far as who
also,
improved the most, it's hard to say. It's probably pretty close.
yeah, to his to the dismay of this trend line, he has more zeros bringing that number down. So that is why it would go from something like, you know, where he's
Hmm.
averaging 20, where it's at around 10. So again, this
Right,
isn't the
right.
most accurate or useful piece of information, but it's still an average. So it's
Hmm.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
the
I mean, it's
these
still
the number increase is more important than the number location.
right, exactly, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The longer you're staying in those runs, the more that's going to get bumped up. So
Yeah.
it's definitely representative of kind of the trend, even if it's not precise.
All right. Well then, shall we look at your fine artistry?
Oh yes, let's move on to my graph here.
All right. So I mean immediately obvious is the incredibly few number of spikes. It is
Mhm.
hilarious to me the difference that you can see between Germ's, mine, and then yours in the number of games played.
Mhm. Now back to that how many credits did I spend bit.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
actually figure this out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Number 13, I don't know what happened on number 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Less than 30 runs, bringing my
Wow.
total cost to 30, so that'd be 145 credits, I believe.
29 times 5?
29 times 5. Because 30 times 5 would
Yeah,
be
yep. Yeah, 130,
150, so
125?
145. Because
145. No, yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
yeah. So I only spent 145 credits on Jetty Boot
No,
over the
yes.
course of an hour, which is very, I mean, again, it's very affordable.
Yes.
Um,
Funny thing is, the more you play, the less that this addiction will cost you. Because as you
mhm.
get better, you spend less and less.
It's just like gambling in that way.
Exactly.
If you just get better at it, it
Just
won't
get good
cost
at
you as much.
gambling and you'll be able to gamble forever.
Yeah. You'll start making money. It'll be a source of income at some point.
Just remember to pay your taxes on gambling.
Yeah. Do you have to pay taxes on gambling?
I honestly don't know.
I think gambling might be tax exempt, actually.
Oh.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
I don't know. Well, you have to pay taxes on the lottery.
That's not official legal advice, by the way. Let
No,
me
this
be
is
very
not
clear.
legal advice. This is not
I
legal
don't know
advice.
whether
This
gambling.
is
Actually,
witty
no,
banter.
gambling. Actually, I've filed taxes before, obviously, so I do remember there is a specialty area for gambling income. I do believe it affects your taxes. So
Yeah, I would think
yeah.
so, considering that you're buying a lottery ticket that is gambling, and
Mhm.
of course you do pay taxes on your lottery
Right,
winnings.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I would
you
assume
would
that
pay tax
all
on
other
them.
gambling forms also need to be taxed.
Mhm.
Now, whether or not it's similar to a gift tax, where you can gift someone up to 16,000 tax exempt.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the number would be for gambling or if it even exists, but that's perhaps a question for another video. This is again
Yeah,
not legal
yeah. I do
advice.
believe we're getting a switch off topic here, but definitely interesting. If anybody knows what the how gambling income is taxed, let us know in the comments, and if you know the U.S. law regarding that.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, let's take a look at the chart here, like actually
Yes.
for the
Let's
first
let. That sounds
time.
like an excellent idea.
um, so I'll let you point out what you think is interesting, and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, first thing I notice is, wow, look at Mr. Big Shot setting 3 records throughout this.
Indeed, indeed. Two of which were back to back here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you ran off that high streak of that 103 or 4,
It
102, I
was
think it
I
was.
think it was 102. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
ran
was a
off the high
very
streak of
low.
102 and went right up to 121. I mean,
Mhm,
that was impressive.
mhm.
Now, funny is, it took so long that it went from around 54 minutes till about 57 minutes. So 3 minutes to get to your next high score.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can see how long these runs are. Like when we were
Yeah.
playing at the time, you didn't really feel, at least I didn't feel how long the runs were getting towards
No.
the end. Like when you start going for those real high scores. But you can see here. I mean, this 120 run, it takes like from almost 55 minutes to almost or from
It
almost
was around 3 to 4 minutes,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
a lot of time. And that's again, we were saying in the video, we it did not feel like it did not feel like it took an hour, because these games just,
No, it really
at
didn't.
least for Vanius and I can say these games were very long. It was, you were focused and concentrated on the one thing for a very long time,
Hmm.
and I mean, time flew.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I mean, I think Germ probably also experienced a faster time rate, but I think that might have been more because of delirium than
Yeah, I was about to say
'cause I
something
mean,
of the very same likeness.
I was sick last week, so I've recently experienced when you're sick or when you're like tired or whatever, time just goes real fast. I don't know what's up with
Yeah,
that, but
it is an interesting
um, so I imagine Germ was experiencing some of that during
yeah.
this contest. But yeah, I think it's interesting that that trend you're talking about in the scores of the kind of you get a high score and then you see that drop off. You
Yeah.
certainly see that at the end with the 120.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's interesting though that I actually got that 120 immediately after getting the 100 because the 100 was kind of the big barrier, right? Like you would think
It
if there was
was, yeah.
any point at which I would care the least about having to surpass my score again, it would be after getting the 100. And I think probably that worked out. I think the pressure being completely relieved from okay, we got the 100, we're not going to be here all night doing this.
Yeah.
Um, might have actually helped me to get the 120 to just be completely like I don't care anymore at this point.
Yeah. That's again, we like to tout our thesis that Jetty Boot is a game best played distracted. So
Mhm,
I mean, right after the relief of breaking 100, I mean, we were at 53.5 minutes when you broke
mhm,
100 there. And so, of course, there's only 7 minutes until the hour mark, which is our
right.
original cutoff point. But we had obviously said, oh, let's go till we get 100. So the sudden relief of, wow, my night isn't going to get eaten up. Definitely
Mhm, mhm.
that, you know,
Yeah.
playing Jetty Boot, you are nice and good there. You are relaxed after that. It's a nice chill
Mhm.
sort of thing. You're not really worried about it. And
Yeah, yeah. I definitely remember the run. Like I believe I got to level 8 without dying at any point. So I had three hearts, three boots going into level 8. And I remember being like, "Oh wow, this is going well." Like
yeah,
and I remember I think the moment I realized that the run was going well, I actually pretty much immediately started dying. And it was, I had to fight for that last like 20 points or so.
yeah,
Um, because I got to like nearly 100 before, or I think it was like 80 something before realizing, oh, this is a really good run. And then, as we've hypothesized many times, once you realize you have a good run, suddenly that good run is in jeopardy.
yep.
It's all about ignorance as much as possible.
No, yeah. A game best played distracted. Now, the
Absolutely.
second you realize that you have a good game going is the second that you have shot yourself in the foot because you are no longer just playing Jetty Boot. You are fighting for a high score, which is where you
Mhm.
start to fail.
Mhm. Speaking of, let's look at the opposite end of the spectrum here at the around the 25-minute mark. This 10
Yes,
score
yes, this
here.
10 score. What
I'm assuming
a
I don't exactly remember what happened, but I believe I just lost a boot like immediately, and I just threw the run because I figured it wasn't worth playing the run out if I had lost a life in level 1.
yeah. No,
I
that
assume
very
that
well
happened.
could have been uh there was one point where you had said I believe it was quote, you made me laugh and that killed me. Well, not a direct quote, but something akin to
Something
that.
to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that might have been that run.
I
And you
don't
were
think it
just
was.
like,
I don't think it was. I remember that moment, and I think it was actually on like it was a run that was going well. It was one of these kind of
ah,
mid-range runs
okay, okay.
that you see.
Yeah, it does sound I do think it might have been a little later than 24 minutes.
I
I think
think
you
what
might be
happened, it
right.
was one of those situations where like maybe I was just not holding my mouse, or well, we weren't using the mice, we were using the E key. I was maybe not holding my like keyboard right, or I, just something happened that I just died in level 1 because of a misinput.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just decided to throw the run. And I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made that throwing runs that you lose a life early on is not necessarily in the spirit of Jetty Boot. Um, so understandable if I have some detractors because of that kind of behavior. But I would like to point out that that's only occurred once. I had a number of other runs here. You can see that like under 30 where I lost lives early, but I continued to play them out. I think there was only one time throughout the night that I really threw a run on purpose just because I thought it didn't have potential.
Yeah. No, I think once again, Jetty Boot being a distracted game, it's also a mentality game. So when you start off
Mhm,
a run
mhm.
poor, it's usually you stay in that bad mindset of, oh, this is going to be a terrible run. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's hard to pick yourself up from that. And I too am a avid. This run is terrible. I just lost a life on stage one. I'm just gonna drop
Mhm,
my
mhm.
boot.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think strategically it's a good decision
it's
because
it's
like it's
yeah,
very
it's a
much a
matter of
mental
time.
game.
It's a matter of time. Do I want to spend my time having this really great run with only two or one life?
Right, right, right. Because I mean, you can see like if we look at these mid-range runs here that I was getting, these ones that go in that 70 to 90 range, um, those take like 2.5 minutes,
Yeah,
um, just for one of those. So if I'm losing a life early and then I do really well, like the 120 run, I got to level 8, no deaths. But imagine I died really early, then I got to level 8, didn't die another time. Now I have two boots going into level 8, and that puts you maybe high 70s score. Um, it's just it puts you in a way worse situation because
yeah.
you're gonna be in that situation where you realize, oh, this is a good run, but you're already down a boot, and then you're gonna be in trouble.
Then it's again you've thought about it, you've seen your lives. Boom, there's the oh crap, this is going to go terribly mentality, and then it does.
Yeah, right, right. And then you have less to fall back on because I think there is also an element of like you can kind of recover from that if you have a moment where you realize, oh, this is going well, and then you die. There's having those two boots of cushioning lets you
Yeah.
kind of get back in the zone and maybe go kind of crazy with that last life.
Yep.
Get another 20, 30 points, but it's just it really is all a mentality game. Would you like to discuss any trends here or maybe earlier in the chart that you think are interesting?
Yes, there was actually one more thing I was going to mention with your scores before I moved on to the next table. You can
Hmm.
see with a lot of with actually most of your runs, there's almost always, maybe not almost always, but more often than Gemini, there are a lot of runs where you can see a point at zero, and this being the one who obviously created these charts, that's kind of hard for you to interpret. But what I see from that is these are taken in 10-second intervals, so there had to be at least 10 seconds between all of these games, especially at the 5 minute mark, and especially after that really bad run there around 25. You can see a small line right at zero where you are
Mm,
giving
hmm.
yourself a mental reset and sitting there for a second. And then you can see right after 20, your poor performance at 24, you have an right back at it. It's almost to the same height that the previous one was. So it's
Hmm. Hmm.
definitely because I know when I was playing, I was just as soon as I died, I was pressing E and going again. But it certainly
Hmm.
appears that you
Hmm.
were taking your time and giving yourself that second or two to take a breather and then get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, no, I definitely did that. I would not have pointed that out. I would not have thought about that for sure. It was definitely something I didn't do intentionally, but there were a number of moments where after a run, I would just take a second to kind of mentally recollect myself before going. And also something I was doing throughout the evening was adjusting my keyboard. This may also explain it. I tried a couple different
Mm,
keyboard grips. Numerous
okay.
times I would turn my keyboard sideways so that I could kind of use the E key like where the left mouse button would be.
Right. Yeah, you'd
Um,
mentioned that.
yeah, I experimented with a couple different keyboard grips. So some of these could be not just a mental reset, but also me physically kind of fidgeting with my setup to try and attempt different grip techniques on the keyboard.
Right. No, yeah,
But
that's interesting. I've seen, I believe it was an April Fool's joke, the Corsair single key keyboard. And I genuinely think that that would have a real application here in Jetty Boot gameplay.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
it was literally a keyboard with one key. It was the F key, but of course you can rebind the keys. So
right, right.
I think that having something so small that's like the mouse, but with the consistency of the key, I think that would have a real application here in Jetty Boot gaming.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think we've spent enough time on this graph. I just want to one last thing. I just want to look at, of course, the trend score.
Yeah.
As we've been looking at with all the graphs, you can see it goes from like 22 and a half, 23, up to where is that? That goes. I'm losing track of my numbers.
Over
It goes up to
to
actually
around.
a high 30,
Yeah,
actually.
that's like
So
37, 38-ish, which
so
is
that's a
quite
over
impressive.
10 point, like that's like a 15-point increase. That's pretty significant.
It is.
Again, relatively speaking, it's hard to say how big these improvements are compared to one another, but um, definitely cool to see that trend line, and you can really see it more exaggerated on my chart here.
Yeah. Not to
Also,
toot my own horn.
not to do my own horn, but also I'd like to point out on Germ's chart, right at the end, right at the very end, you can actually see a little break there past the 1 hour mark.
Yeah. I
Um,
believe that's where we had basically wrapped it up at an hour, and then we said we'll keep it going until we're done. And if we go back to my chart, actually, you can see I was in a round before he had started that, and then we had mentioned that, and he started a new round.
Well, also you can see if you look at the beginning of the chart, the first 2 minutes, Jetty Boot is not being played.
Yes,
So that's not actually the 1 hour mark. That would be like that run would have been started right before the 1 hour mark of us actually playing Jetty Boot.
that's
So
true. That's true.
hence why that run occurs. It's not actually after. It's right at the end, and then we decided to just finish out our runs that we had going at the time. So
Yes. All right. Well, then on to the next one. This one here, this is I actually took the time to prune the data, and these are our highest recorded scores of each run. So this is no longer resetting back to 0 and taken over the interval. This is just the highest score that you had. It goes from each run to run. So definitely, what I find funny is around 15 and 20 minutes, you and I have a dip right at the same time, really, which I
this
wonder if that was
whole
related to the conversation.
mm,
I'm
that's
not sure what
interesting.
topic was being covered at that point in time, but it's definitely, since we're obviously in the same call, I wonder if because you can see again a same dip happening at around the 45-minute mark.
45. Yeah, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you can definitely see some correlation there in the
And with
scores.
Germ
In
too, yeah.
fact, this whole section here from when I got my 80 on my first run, you got a really good score on your first run as well with the 69 LMAO. Um, you can see this dip where we kind of both, I mean, aside from where you got the 28, then immediately afterward we kind of met back up at this 50 number here. Uh, but then this whole area, you can see the trend is very similar
Yeah,
from 5 minutes to almost 25 minutes. Well, I guess closer to like 22 minutes. You
yeah,
can see we kind of followed the same trend. There's a valley here of less performance, and then we kind of both diverge again.
yeah. No, that is definitely very interesting. Sort of a neat little. I mean, there's certainly cause for correlation, but I do think that might just be a neat coincidence.
It most likely is. I suspect that the conversation does not have that much bearing. I mean, you and I are more in sync throughout this chart. Germ is kind of doing his own thing down here this whole time.
Well, certainly,
I can't
yeah,
really see any correlations as far as Germ scores. And I think part of that is that because he's getting more scores, the chart is a little bit more difficult to read
yeah.
uh, in that regard. But I'm not noticing any particular correlations in performance with germ scores and R scores too much. Um,
No,
I mean, again, you can see got a decent score right at the beginning, just like you and I did, um, and then another good score right at the end. So that would be the biggest correlation I would point out is like within the first 10 minutes we all got a high score, and then within the last 10 minutes we all got another high score.
yeah.
Um, that those
Funny
are kind of
enough, yeah, it's all around the same time at around that 55, like 50, 53 to 55 minute mark. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you went on to do your 121, but we all surpassed our own highest scores right around that point, which is quite
And
interesting.
I would consider my 121 part of this kind of grouping here.
Yeah,
It's all very
it did
tight.
start right around that same point.
Yeah.
But no, that's
Yeah, I
definitely
would be on my
interesting.
121 run right around the same time Jerome was doing the 50 score. I would be on
Yeah,
his
yeah,
run.
you would have already been. You would have words. You would have already been around there.
Right. The big outlier I see as far as, I mean, you have that grouping in the beginning, you have that grouping at the end of really good scores, but then in the middle, you and I had kind of another good score. Your 91 and my 84 here
Yeah,
kind of stand out as like some good middle scores that happened.
it's also very interesting. My 92 followed by your 102. Mine was very quickly overwritten by your 102,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
quite entertaining.
Did yours technically come like a few seconds before mine? I believe it did.
Yes, yes, it did. You can see on
So
the
you
chart
held
there. It
a high score there for a few
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah, for about give or take 20 seconds, maybe less, probably less, but no, for about 20 seconds, I suppose I did set two records, but
hmm hmm
mm, how much it really matters, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I no, I'd say it would matter. I say it would matter because if you're counting it that way, then you could say that that we're fairly even because you set these two records back to back, and then I set the two records back to back.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think it is kind of cool that that 92 came in just a few seconds before mine.
Yep, I just
Because it's
scraped
like
by. Actually,
you got
what
a
that
nice
makes me
score.
think is we started this round around the same time, and we were probably both on the same sort of course there. Perhaps you can see it better in the video,
hmm
but
hmm
I think that might have just been me dying sooner than you and getting a score sooner than you.
Right, right. Yeah, we might have been basically synced up there. I think I was probably a smidge ahead. I would have to look
Yeah,
at the video
absolutely.
to
Because
determine, but
yeah,
yeah, no, for sure. We were definitely kind of in sync. We were close. We were close there for sure.
yeah, only a few seconds off, but
And
that
while
I
we were
do
doing
find quite
that,
entertaining.
Germ was on his iconic 50 run
Yes, 50 on the
at the
dot.
time. Yeah, 50 on the dot. Seriously, I mean that's like that was a relief. I
Yeah,
will say
yeah,
that much.
yes, a relief for arbitrary requirements.
Yeah, I don't know why we decided halfway through to be like, we should have to get 100 and Germ should have to get 50. I don't know why that was a bad idea, but you know
uh,
what?
I kind of blame
Sometimes it
that on
works out.
you. That was your doing.
Yeah, that totally was. I take full responsibility. But you know what? It worked out. It's
It
like
did work
gambling.
out
You
in the
just
end.
gotta
Yeah,
get good at it.
yeah, exactly.
Just
Just
gotta
get
get
good
good
at
at
gambling again, guys.
it.
Clearly, the that is the takeaway of this video. Just gamble and get good at it, and you'll be fine.
If you gamble enough, you'll see that, we've seen the trend line increase. That trend line, that'll be you with gambling.
Yeah, yeah. You'll be setting high scores back to back, and then
Now, I will
immediately
say, I'm
follow it up with very lows.
yeah. You'll get a lot of money and then you'll lose most of it. But
Yes.
generally the trend will be positive.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just keep going, just
Just
keep trying.
just remember, Vanius's trend line was still up, so
It's
just
still
keep
up, still
going,
up.
keep gambling.
I will say I'm a little bit saddened by the fact that we don't have an all-player trend line here. I think that would be quite an interesting statistic to average all of
On
these
that note,
numbers.
let's go to the next slide.
Ooh, what do we got?
So this is an all players trend line based
Ah,
on
okay.
our final scores rather than all of the scores. So
Rather than
this
the
number
continuous. Okay,
is
awesome.
much more accurate to our actual scoring. So this would be the number of how much we actually improved over the course of our game. So it's definitely you have a incredible trend line. That is some impressive stuff there.
That is
You are
pretty good.
on the rise. I mean, this is the next Jetty Boot champion right here.
Oh
I
yeah, I
know
mean, if
this
that
guy sort of
line
deal.
continues to move in that direction, I mean, we were talking world championship title status for sure.
Undoubtedly. For the Jetty Boot Championship that definitely occurs. Actually, we'll just host it. We'll just host the Jetty Boot World
We'll do it
Championship.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
People will
know,
show up.
Ghost Ship
They love
Games,
us.
reach out to us, sponsor us, give us a little something, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do that, but also like do that if you want to.
Yeah.
But no.
If you want us to, we will build and code physical Jetty Boot arcade machines to use in a live esports arena with millions of fans.
Although I doubt if we get there. We're getting off track, but this is this is off track but on track because it's still Jetty Boot. If they were to do this, I imagine they would be able to simply take the arcade version of Jetty Boot and just port it flat screen instead of being within the game. I imagine the way that that's done would facilitate that sort of course of action. But certainly an interesting idea, a real Jetty Boot arcade machine. Might have to look into that. That would be the coolest thing I would ever own in my life. Undoubtedly,
for sure.
undoubtedly. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, 10 kids, with my awesome wife, don't care. I have a Jetty Boot arcade machine.
Right.
This is. I mean, really, you got to keep your priorities straight. Jetty Boot is at the top always. But perhaps we should get back to the chart.
Right. I will say I am still slightly disappointed that we don't have an all players average. I think that would be an interesting statistic, but
I mean, you could probably give me like five minutes and I could do that, but that's all right.
Well, I mean, I think this chart is very clean. You can kind of imagine where it would be. I don't think it's necessary at this point, but
no, but it's what I find interesting is. So, of course, Germ's starting out around 20, and he's going up to around 27, we'll say. So he's got about a 7 increase. I'm starting around 36, and I'm going to like...
Was that 60? 60.
Yeah, around 60. Okay, well, I don't know where I was going with that. The trend lines look very, very, very samey. They look around to be the same amount. Of course, the numbers say otherwise, but it's interesting to see that Germ and I are on a similar course. He's just at a lower number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, yours definitely did increase more. Like the angle's a little bit sharper here.
And I suppose the angle is very impactful. Even just a single degree on this sort of thing would greatly change your score
over the course of an hour.
Yeah,
that's a big difference. But relativistically, right? Like that's what you have to think about is like that's probably very similar in terms of that.
Yeah, and I imagine if Germ wasn't tired, it would be a much more similar line. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think Germ has a sleeping a Jetty Boot beast inside.
Yeah. Just waiting to be awoken. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I will emburden myself with the task of awakening said beast. I think it's very, very important that we produce our Jetty Boot esports gaming firm believes that there's a Jetty Boot beast inside everyone, and we need to awaken that beast.
Yeah,
we don't actually have a Jetty Boot firm. Don't try and contact us about Jetty Boot esports.
Actually, the whole point of this channel is low key. It's kind of all like a secret operation to try and trick Germ into awakening the Jetty Boot beast inside. It's actually, we actually worship the Jetty Boot god inside Germ as some kind of deity. It's kind of a whole thing here. We're trying to awaken this ancient, powerful Jetty Boot god that clearly lives inside Germ.
Yes.
Clearly. So we're just waiting for the day that is unleashed, and we will all we will all, what's the word I'm looking, we will all tremble before the back-to-back 500, 600, 2,000 Jetty Boot scores.
Yeah, I mean, these are rookie numbers here. I think that in a year's time we could already be seeing him at those 2,000 numbers, and that's only a fraction of this incredible monster's power. But
Yeah, yeah.
But
Just has
it's
to tap into
definitely
that
now,
secret
Jerm,
door.
if you're watching this, forget the last 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Skip. We'll have to tell him to skip this part because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't want him to know. Obviously,
No,
it's very important that the host is not aware of the Jetty Boot God inside. It could be
this is again, Jetty Boot is a
detrimental.
mentality game.
Exactly, exactly. You do not want the host to be aware of the power that they wield because it'll impact their ability
Yes,
to
it will
wield it.
very quickly
So
get to their head, and all such power rushing into the mind of someone who is not well prepared is could
mhm.
be could spell very dangerous for the host.
It could be very dangerous for humanity.
This is true. I mean, all of that
Overall.
energy
So
being released at once is truly a devastating. I mean, if you want to talk about the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, I mean that is nothing compared to what this could
yeah.
be.
It could be very serious stuff. But anyway, I think it's really interesting that your score actually starts a little bit higher than mine here at the beginning. On the graph,
I believe that can be attributed to me starting sooner than you.
is that what it is? Because I was looking at
I
the
think
previous
it might
graphs. I was trying to
be.
figure out
That's
what the deal was.
that's I believe a lot of that is just since it's an average, it's just a slope, a trend line.
Uh,
Since your trend is higher, it will be lower than mine to start, but that's not reflective of your actual score.
right, right. Yeah, I think because that does not quite seem correct to me,
No,
given
not at
the
all.
fact that I got a higher score right off the bat. So it
Yep.
seemed kind of an interesting thing, but yeah, I imagine you're probably right about it having to do with you starting earlier. That's my assumption now
Yeah,
that you mention
starting
it.
earlier and it being a trend line, it can all be attributed to the way data works.
Mm-hmm.
But and
Yeah,
no,
I think
that's quite. This has been a very informative analysis here.
yeah, I think we're gonna all walk away from this, including our lovely viewers at home. I think we're all gonna
Yes,
walk away from this with a better understanding of Jetty Boot as a game, as a lifestyle, and hopefully we're all gonna be better players for it.
that would be ideal. Now, and I will make sure to link this chart in the description for you to view. You can take this chart, do with the data as you must. Better yet, use it for your own information. Do the same sort of deal with your friends. Fill out the chart. It's not too difficult to do. If just a little time consuming to get the data down, but once it's done, the chart fills itself out. So it's really have at it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
We would love to hear about your high scores in the comments. Let us know. Let us know what you thought of this video, and we look forward to I don't know, having you watch us again.
Yeah, yeah. Look forward to more epic gameplays coming soon. So
Yep,
hope you enjoyed the
many
100
more.
episode special. I almost said 100 subscriber special.
Eh,
100
oh my
episode
goodness, that
special.
would be incredible.
That would be awesome. What do you guys want us to do for the inevitable 100 subscriber
Yes,
special? Let
yes.
us know
Yeah,
if you have any
more
ideas for.
comments. Just one huge now, like 3 separate comments. Give us that
Yeah,
like.
make sure to leave every individual idea as a separate comment.
Yeah, we need the algorithm.
For the algorithm.
I'm desperate
All
for
right.
the algorithm. And
make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Ding ding.